And so we have in that first part those 10 commandments. It's very interesting to draw a contrast between the law of Moses here and the worst laws in pagan society and the best laws in pagan society. If you contrast these standards of Moses' law with the worst, as we've already done with the Amorites already living there, what a pure, holy law it is. How much healthier and happier people will be if they live that way. But there's an interesting comparison between law of Moses and another law which has been discovered from the ancient world called the Code of Hammurabi, an ancient Amorite king of a city called Babylon or Babel. If you go to the Louvre in Paris, do go and look at the steel or stone column that was found at a place called Susa in Persia and is now in the Louvre. And on that stone column are carved 282 laws of Hammurabi. And those laws were written 300 years before Moses. Many scholars like to draw comparisons, and it's amazing when you do. No killing, no adultery, no stealing, no false witness. And these are all in the laws of Hammurabi, 300 years before. And the famous law called the lex talionis, or the law of revenge, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, is also on that stone. And so many people say, well, these laws were pretty common. At least the King Hammurabi knew them. But you know, Paul in Romans 2 says a very interesting thing. He says, God has written his law on the hearts of pagans. He didn't just write it on stone. He's written it into the hearts of people. In other words, people know these things are wrong. God has written his law in their heart. They know it. Do you know that every society in the world has always thought incest was wrong? God has written these things on the heart as well. But he's also made them even clearer to us in the law of Moses. Having said that, there are some big differences between Hammurabi's law and the laws of Moses. For one thing, Hammurabi, there was pretty well only one punishment for anything, and that was death. Whereas in the law of Moses, the death penalty is quite rare. There are only 15 things in the law of Moses that deserve the death penalty. So by comparison, the law of Moses is not nearly so barbaric as people would say. Not so harsh, not so cruel. Another huge difference is that in the law of Moses, slaves and women are people, whereas in the law of Hammurabi, they're property. And therefore, women had no rights and no respect in the law of Hammurabi, but they do in the law of Moses. That's a very interesting comparison. Another is that in the law of Hammurabi, there are classes. There are nobles, there are common people, and a different law for the different classes. In the law of Moses, the law of God, there is no such thing as class, and the same law applies to everybody. Now, I'm just saying this because some scholars say, oh, well, the law of Moses is just one among many others. No, it's quite different. And though God has written his law on pagan hearts, and they know these things are wrong, there is another interesting technical difference. I'll give you the technical name and then explain it. The laws of Hammurabi are what are called casuistic laws. They are presented in the form of a condition. If you do this, then you must die. If you do this, that's a condition. Whereas the laws of Moses are presented in what we call an apodeictic manner. They are presented not as a condition, but as a command. You must not do this. Now, can you see the difference? All the laws of Hammurabi are, if you do this, you'll be punished. The laws of Moses are, you shall not do this. Now, only God has the right to talk like that, you see. Human laws are usually casuistic. If you do this, then this is what will happen. But God has the right to say, you must not do this. I command you not to do it, because he's the King of Kings. So there are differences.